Alright, so this is my first attempt at a vlog. I've watched a few on YouTube just to see kind of how people run them. I don't think I'm going to do it justice, but we're going to try. Um, so one of the nice things about vlogs that I think I won't be able to capture, or even any adult the first time that they're doing a vlog, when you're doing it with kids, they just want to do the video. They just want to be recorded. Um, Whereas I'm a bit more self-conscious, and I think because adults are kind of aware, um, and we kind of at our age um, have this recognition of failure as a bad thing, whereas in schools we are trying to teach children that failure's the way you learn. So they don't care as much. Um, Whereas if this doesn't work out, I'll be a little sad. But we're gonna try. I'm gonna do one take, and this is gonna be what it is. Um, so this week we had two readings. So we had Amplify Chapter 4, and we had Curriculum 21 Chapter 12. Um, So a brief summary of these chapters. So for Amplify this week, the Amplify chapter 4 was really just a set of lessons that um, will foster independence. So it provides lessons that um, ultimately help children become more independent with using technology. And the authors provide 10 lessons that kind of span um, beginning usage of technology all the way through um, like cleaning up with technology and really getting into the technology, surfing the web, stuff like that. Um, and these would include the purpose of the lesson, a lead-in, the core teaching, and then they also had suggestions for helping students remember the skills and reteaching if necessary. The chapter 12 in Curriculum 21 was about the evolution of technology in schools, kind of starting from the very beginning growth of technology. Um, so they talked about how um, VHSs and VCRs kind of started changing the way technology was presented in schools, all the way up through today. Um, and it describes the roles that technology plays and technological tools play in the classroom. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those things and my impressions of them. Just open up the book to where I need it. So chapter 12. Um, so with Amplify, where it was lessons, I found the lessons really helpful. Um, and I liked the approach that the authors took, because I do think that, I mean, independence is a huge skill that teachers are trying to instill upon their students. That's a huge thing. And also with technology, kind of making sure that students are digital citizens and that they know how to utilize technology the correct way, um, and use it for academic reasons. Um, and so I think the lessons were really helpful. So um, I'm not going to go too much into it because I think it was really basic, but the lessons were explained in ways that, I mean, are pretty simple. But I think that it really is about empowering students as learners and as users of technology. And I think that's really important, that that we do need to instill upon our students that they are the future, and that what they have to say and what they have to do with technology is important. So really empowering them and providing them with opportunities to use the technology and use it appropriately and correctly. Because technology is expensive, so I think that the investment needs to be made, and it needs to be made well. So if you're investing in technology just for the students to mess around with it and play games, that's not appropriate use. You have to invest in a way that is really going to help students become better learners. So that's kind of Amplify and my impressions of the lessons, kind of focusing on empowerment and independence. The chapter in Curriculum 21, I always have a lot of opinions on Curriculum 21. So it kind of starts off, like I said, with the history of technology. And one of the things that they mentioned at the beginning was that the early introduction of computers into schools failed. And that was kind of because teachers didn't know how to use them. There was no training on how to use them. And I think that's really telling. So teachers need to, one, be taught how to use the technology, and two, I think they also need to make an effort to learn it. So it's more than just showing up to a professional development workshop and being told, this is what you should do, this is how you can use it, etc. Teachers need to make an effort to understand it too. I recently went to the training on Ready Toolbox, which is a online resource for teachers, and I thought it was really helpful. I actually was there for the math part. I only teach reading. I'm a reading teacher. But I was there for the math part. And I was going through, and the teachers around me were all getting so frustrated. And the tools were really simple. It was broken down nicely by standard, by topic, by grade level. It was really nice, and the teachers were getting frustrated because they just felt like they already had so much on their plates. A new math curriculum, just new expectations all the time. And I think it's important that we not view technology as another thing we need to learn, another part of the curriculum, but more as a resource that's going to make teaching easier and that's going to help students be more successful. So I think that, yes, teachers need to be taught how to use it, but that's not enough. The teachers need to make an effort to utilize it, to learn it themselves too. And then another thing that I came across in the chapter was that one-on-one technology is, so it says, one-on-one computing in classrooms is growing throughout the United States, but we're still a few years away from this happening in the majority of school systems because of the cost and the logistics of wireless connections. So this was back in 2010 when this was written. And so I was curious, I was like, well, what's the percentage now of one-to-one technology in classrooms? So I was browsing the internet, of course, and I came across the statistics from 2015 that said that the projection of 2016, the 2016 school year, is about 54% of schools would have one-to-one technology. And that still seemed pretty low to me, especially because they said they're a few years away from this happening in the majority of schools. 6 years later, 54% isn't, I don't consider that to be the majority. I guess it's more than half, but 54% still seems low to me. So I was curious about that. Um, Also in the chapter, so they brought up all these tools. So they talked about projectors and the interactive whiteboards, stuff like that, which I've used before, but I think it's about how you use it. So it's not enough to just have the technology in the school. I've seen teachers with interactive whiteboards who will use them like any other whiteboard or any other projector even. And it's more than that. They're really cool tools, and they can be really powerful tools for helping students learn. So it's about how you use it that's important. And then one last thing that I wanted to talk about was this was actually also back in the beginning of the chapter, kind of before the tools. I thought the tools were really cool, but I think the point was that you need to use them in a way that's going to be effective for students. But the discussion about digital natives versus digital immigrants, I've heard this discussion actually a lot. That the digital natives are today's students. They're the ones who've grown up with technology. And actually, I was born in 1992, so technically I'm a digital native. I've kind of grown up with the technology all around me. And we're getting more of those teachers who are digital natives, but we still have teachers who are digital immigrants, and this isn't a bad thing. It's not. Digital immigrants, I like how they, the quote that they chose from Mark Prensky here that talks about digital immigrants. They said, I refer to those of us who were not born into the digital world as digital immigrants. We have adopted many aspects of the technology, but just like those who learn another language later in life, we retain an accent because we still have one foot in the past. And I think that's important. And even as a digital native, I think technology changes so quickly and so often that even digital natives, year to year to year, are going to retain aspects of the past. Such as, well, I mean, I had a flip phone growing up. So I feel comfortable, texting with the numbers, and kind of playing around with numbers in that way, like a calculator, we could say. Whereas today, everyone has a smartphone, and there are calculator tools that you just write the equations on, and it will solve it for you, and it's all really cool. The traditional form isn't the same anymore, even for something like calculator on a phone, in the way that it's presented. So I still prefer the number format, the traditional calculator, because I think of what I grew up with. Whereas today, students might prefer the written app or something like that, if that makes sense. So I think it's important for all learners and all teachers to continue to grow as digital learners, and not just focus on the here and now or the past, but to take both and learn from it. And I just thought that the digital native, digital immigrant conversation is interesting, and this was a really small part of this chapter, but I think it's important because we have to learn how to approach students and how to meet their level, and meet their needs. Um, but I think there's a lot of fear, um, and a lot of uncertainty when you don't know what to do, and when you perceive your students as knowing more about the technology than you, which could be the case. Um, but as the teacher, you do have to make an effort to understand and also to learn from your students, and um, take what they teach you and be able to grow and expand upon that and teach more to your students. It's kind of a thought I had while reading this chapter. So I'll stop there. I've been going on for like 15 minutes. But I think the ideas in Curriculum 21 are really good. Um, and I really loved this chapter, especially. I think it's just all a process of implementation, and change can be scary, but it can work. So I'm gonna attempt to have my students do vlogs this year once I figure out the logistics of and the legality of video recording. But um, I would love to do that. And is it scary to make that change? Sure. But it's also exciting, and I think students find it exciting too. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to make change, and like Heidi Hayes Jacobs says, just gotta take it one step at a time. Start with something small with the assessment, and get bigger from there. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'll try it out. It could work. Alright. Thank you for watching. I hope this wasn't a complete mess. It might have been. It's not shocking, but good. Alright. Until next time. I might try a vlog again next time, depending on how well this went. See you then.